They forgot my birthday but remembered my card number for their all-inclusive trip. $4,100 charged to you. Thanks. I sent back $1 with a screenshot. Declined. Then my parents came in a panic and said, "What are you doing?" I got angry, kicked them out, and the next morning I turned 33 on a Thursday. No celebration, no cake. Not even one of those awkward phone calls where everyone passes the phone around pretending to care. I didn't expect much, to be honest, but I thought maybe I'd at least get a text from my mom or my sister, something. Instead, the day passed like it didn't exist. I worked late, microwaved leftovers, and finally fell asleep watching a YouTube video about how to clean your dryer vent. That was my birthday. The next morning, I got a notification from my bank at 7:14 a.m. I was still in bed. The screen said, "Doll 4,102.75 charged to your account. All Sun Travel Agency." I stared at it, confused. Then I read it again. I hadn't booked anything. I hadn't even left the state in 2 years. I opened the charge details. All-inclusive resort package. Cancun, 5 nights. Ocean view. Premium package with excursions included. The receipt even showed it was booked for 2 people. I sat up. My stomach dropped. There was only one explanation. A year ago, my parents said they were in a tight spot. Some unexpected medical bills. Something about the car breaking down. I don't even remember anymore. They asked to borrow my card just once, and I gave them the number. I never thought twice about it. I never even changed it. I trusted them. That was the mistake. I called the travel agency, got put on hold for 20 minutes, and finally spoke to someone who confirmed it was booked under my dad's name. I didn't even bother calling them. I went straight to the bank, reported it as an unauthorized charge, canceled the card, and requested a new one. Then, just to twist the knife, I opened Zelle and sent them $1. The note said simply, "Declined." I attached a screenshot of the canceled vacation booking right below it. 10 minutes later, my phone started buzzing nonstop. I didn't answer. Then I heard a knock at my door. Not just a knock, a pounding. My parents had driven over. My dad was outside asking what the hell I thought I was doing. I let them in. They weren't embarrassed, not even a little. My mom said something like, "It was a gift to ourselves. We haven't been on vacation in years. You can afford it. You don't even have kids." I was stunned. They didn't ask. They didn't tell me. And when they got caught, they acted like I was the one being dramatic. I told them to leave. I didn't hold back. I told them if this was what family meant to them, entitlement without respect, they could consider themselves cut off. My dad muttered something under his breath on the way out. My mom just shook her head like I was the one who needed help. I sat down after they left, staring at the blank TV screen. I should have felt satisfied for standing up for myself, but all I felt was this strange mix of betrayal and stupidity, like I'd handed them the gun they just used to shoot me in the foot. I didn't know it yet. But that moment at the door was just the spark. The real fire didn't come until the next morning, because apparently, when you take away something entitled people think they deserve, they don't just walk away. They get angry. Then they get mean. The next morning, I woke up to a buzzing phone and a vague sense of dread. 33 messages, 11 missed calls, 5 voicemails, all of them from family. I didn't even need to look. I already knew what it was about. I ignored them at first, made coffee, opened the blinds, sat down at the table like it was any other Saturday. I even tried putting on a podcast and pretending to care about some guy talking about productivity hacks. But it was like background noise to the storm building in my head. And then it got louder. Someone knocked. I checked the camera. Rachel. I opened the door mostly out of curiosity, and she walked in without waiting. She held a folded paper in one hand, and it looked like she was 2 seconds away from either yelling or crying. She didn't even say hi. "You seriously think that was okay?" I just looked at her. She dropped the paper on my coffee table. Mortgage documents. Copies of the co-signed papers I'd signed for our parents 2 years ago. I didn't even need to read it. I knew exactly what it was. She pointed to them like she was revealing some hidden truth, like I wasn't already aware I'd been financially tethered to a house I hadn't stepped foot in for nearly 8 months. I'd been paying half the mortgage every month because my parents couldn't manage and things were tight. I never made a big deal out of it. Now, apparently, I was the bad guy. You embarrassed Mom. Dad hasn't stopped pacing since yesterday. They were counting on that trip, counting on my money without telling me, without asking. I didn't say anything. Rachel didn't care. You always do this. You pretend to help, but the second someone does something you don't like, you flip and make them feel like trash. You love being the one in control. That's why you keep throwing money around, so you can yank it back whenever you want. That one hit, not because it was true, but because it sounded like something rehearsed, something our mom probably fed her word for word. Rachel wasn't like this. She had her flaws, sure, but she never went for the throat like that. I asked her one question. Do you think what they did was okay? She didn't answer, just stared. Then she said, they're your parents. They don't have to ask. That's when I realized it wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was a mindset, a system, one where I wasn't a son or a brother. I was a credit line. I told her I was cutting myself off from the card, from the mortgage, from all of it. She went pale for a second, like it hadn't even crossed her mind that I'd actually do it. You're really going to screw over Mom and Dad because of this. They screwed themselves. She left without another word. I thought it might die down after that. I thought maybe now that they knew I was serious, they'd back off, maybe even apologize. Instead, things escalated fast. At 4:00 p.m., my dad showed up. Didn't knock, just pounded on the door. When I didn't answer, he started shouting loud enough for the neighbors to hear, accusing me of betrayal, of abandoning family, of playing the victim. I stayed silent. I watched him from the peephole until he finally gave up and left. Then, at 8:00 p.m., Rachel texted again. You'll regret this. That night, I lay awake for hours, not because I was scared, but because I could feel it. Something had changed. This wasn't just about the trip anymore, or the money, or even the mortgage. This was about control, about power, about family turning on you when you stop playing their game. And what I didn't know was that by the next afternoon, they'd already started making plans to put me back in my place. Sunday started off quiet. Too quiet. I went downstairs mid-morning to grab a package, and something felt off. The doorman barely made eye contact with me. He usually cracks a joke or asks about my fantasy team. Not today. Then, in the elevator, a woman I barely know gave me this tight-lipped smile and said, "Hope your parents are doing okay." I didn't respond. I had no idea what she was talking about. Back in my apartment, I opened my email and saw 3 messages with no subject lines. Each had a random Gmail address and an attachment. I opened them out of instinct. The first was a screenshot of a Facebook post from Rachel. A photo of my parents' driveway with their suitcases sitting on the curb. And the caption, "When your own brother decides he's done being part of the family and leaves you out in the cold over money." The second was from my mom's profile. A long dramatic paragraph about how they gave everything to raise me and how heartbreaking it was to be cut off by someone who used to be our pride. Attached was a picture of her and my dad at some park looking tired and pitiful. The third was a thread from a family group chat. My name came up multiple times, always followed by words like disgrace, selfish, and ungrateful. I hadn't even known this group chat existed. They weren't reaching out to resolve anything. They were creating a story, one where they were the abandoned parents and I was the cold, heartless son, and people were buying it. My phone vibrated again. This time, it was a message from my cousin Lisa. "Hey, just saw what your mom posted. Are you okay? Is this all true?" I didn't answer. Then came the calls. One from an uncle I hadn't seen since 2018. Another from some family friend who used to babysit me in the 90s. And when I didn't pick up, they started texting. Family is everything, Fred. Your parents love you. Don't do this to them. You're better than this. Better than what? Better than refusing to fund a $4,000 vacation without being asked? That night, someone slipped an envelope under my door. No return address. Just a single sheet of paper with 5 words written in black pen. This isn't how family acts. That's when it clicked. They weren't trying to guilt me. They were trying to break me. They couldn't stand the fact that I'd said no, that I was finally standing up for myself. So they decided to destroy my name. One whisper, one post, one twisted story at a time. And they were dragging everyone into it. Neighbors, distant relatives, old family friends, anyone who'd listen. But they forgot something. I wasn't just some kid trying to prove something anymore. I was the guy whose name was keeping their mortgage alive, whose credit had bailed them out more than once, whose patience had run out. So the next morning I made some calls. The mortgage. I started the paperwork to remove myself. The shared account. I closed it. The lawyer. I booked the appointment. They thought they were putting me in my place. What they didn't realize was they were cutting the only lifeline they had. By Tuesday, I was done talking. Every word they'd thrown at me over the last few days, every guilt trip, every whisper campaign, it all made things painfully clear. They didn't want peace. They wanted submission. So I decided to give them something they couldn't manipulate with words. I took back control. I filed the paperwork to remove myself from the mortgage. I'd signed on 2 years ago because the bank wouldn't touch them without a cosigner. My credit score had carried them. Now, I was lifting that weight, but not from my shoulders, from under their feet. The lender told me they'd have to refinance immediately or face penalties. And with their credit, I knew what that meant. Higher payments, stricter terms, and a ticking clock. I scheduled the removal to finalize just before the next payment cycle. Timing was everything. Then I closed the joint account, the same one I'd been dumping $800 into every month like clockwork. I didn't warn them. No explanation, just a clean cut. By Wednesday, the silence was cracking. My mom texted a photo of their mortgage bill, circled the total in red, and wrote, "You know we can't handle this." I didn't respond. Then a long voice message from my dad came in, half mumbling, half pacing, ending with, "You really think they'll be there for you when you're the one who needs help? You'll end up alone, Fred. People like you always do." Rachel went quiet, which was worse than anything else. I figured she was regrouping, waiting for the drama to settle before launching her next guilt trip. She always did that. She knew how to bide her time. But even when she was silent, she was watching. Thursday, around noon, she finally called. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She said one sentence, straight and flat. "Okay, you got what you wanted." Then she told me the full story. The bank had called them that morning. Their new mortgage rate kicked in without my name backing the loan. Their payments had jumped nearly $400 a month, enough to make my dad consider selling the car. My mom apparently hadn't stopped crying since Tuesday. Rachel said she'd been getting calls from extended family asking why I would torpedo the house. She paused, waiting for a response. I told her the truth. I stopped cleaning up their mess. That's all I did. Then came the line I'll never forget. "You always act like you're the victim, like they used you. But you gave them that card. You signed that mortgage. You made yourself the hero, Fred. Don't act surprised that they kept taking." And she hung up. It echoed because, deep down, I knew part of it was true. I had made it too easy. I wanted to believe I could help without being used, and that was the lie I kept feeding myself for years. Later that evening, I got the confirmation email. My name was officially removed from the mortgage. The house was no longer mine in any capacity. No legal connection, no responsibility, just the building I once helped them save. Now someone else's burden. I went to bed thinking it was finally over, that maybe despite the fallout, I'd earned some peace. I was wrong because the next morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. A woman from HR at my job. She asked if I'd recently authorized someone to request employment verification. I hadn't. I checked my voicemail. 2 messages. One from my landlord asking if I was planning to move out. Another from the alumni office at my college saying they got a very confusing inquiry about my financial aid history. Someone had been digging, not trying to hurt me physically. No, this was quieter, dirtier. Someone was trying to rattle my foundation, and I already knew who. Friday night, I realized the harassment wasn't just passive anymore. The voicemails, emails, random inquiries, they'd shifted from annoying to disturbing. My landlord called again, asking if I was okay and whether I had family issues. Someone had apparently contacted the building's office claiming to be me, asking about lease termination options. That's when I knew they were trying to destabilize me. Not just emotionally, logistically, financially. They wanted me off balance, second-guessing everything around me. Then, around 9:00 p.m., someone rang my buzzer. I live in a secure building. No one shows up unannounced. I answered through the intercom. Delivery. I asked who ordered it. The guy just shrugged and said, "Name's Fred. Paid in cash." I went downstairs. He handed me a pizza box with a folded receipt taped on top. Under special instructions. "Sorry for everything. Let's fix this. Love you." I didn't take the pizza. I didn't even ask who left it. I just watched the delivery guy walk off and left the box sitting on the counter in the lobby. Back in my apartment, I started running through everything in my head. Who was trying to send what kind of message? Then I remembered something. The joint email account I'd created years ago to help my mom manage bills. I hadn't logged in since last winter. I figured I'd check it. Big mistake. Or maybe exactly what I needed. I reset the password. Got in. Most of the recent emails were junk or spam, but one caught my eye. It was an auto-confirmation from the mortgage company sent 2 days ago. Title: Refinancing Agreement. Confirmation of new cosigner. Attached was a PDF. I opened it and stared. Rachel Caldwell. She'd signed as the new cosigner within 36 hours of my removal. Not only that, she'd signed under a modified income declaration, one I knew for a fact wasn't accurate. Claimed she earned nearly double what she actually made. It was obvious they were rushing and lying, hoping no one would check. So this whole time, while they were torching my name, Rachel had been angling for position. She didn't just want to replace me. She wanted to beat me, to be the one who swooped in and saved the family after I abandoned them. But it backfired. Saturday morning, I got a credit alert ping. Rachel had applied for a new credit line and been denied. I checked her score through a back door she forgot to revoke access to when she took over the joint finance app we once used. Her score had dropped by over 60 points in 2 days. She'd taken on too much. She didn't understand how fragile her credit was. And now, with the refinancing and inflated income lie hanging over her, she wasn't going to survive another financial hiccup. I said nothing. Sunday afternoon, my phone vibrated. Just one message from her. "You really screwed us." There was no anger in that sentence. It felt like panic wrapped in blame. She was drowning. They all were. I had done nothing except remove myself from their mess. But they weren't built to handle the weight I'd been quietly carrying. Then Monday came. I was in the middle of a Zoom call when my building's intercom buzzed. I ignored it. 2 minutes later, my phone rang. It was the front desk. "There are 3 people down here asking to come up. They say it's urgent," said their family. I sighed, told them to send them up. When I opened the door, I didn't recognize them at first. My dad looked 10 years older. Shoulders slouched, eyes sunken. My mom didn't say anything, just stood there, like she couldn't figure out how to start. And Rachel, she was the only one who looked directly at me. They didn't scream, they didn't accuse, They didn't bring documents or guilt. My dad finally said, "We need to talk." And that was the moment I knew part 6 wasn't going to be a war. It was going to be the truce. But I also knew something else. Truces like this, they come with strings. And I'd have to decide if I was willing to tie myself back to people who only remembered I existed when they needed saving. They didn't sit when I let them in. None of them touched the couch or asked for water. They just stood there awkwardly, like visitors at a funeral. Except the only thing that had died was their leverage. My dad was the first to speak. We messed up. No grand speech, no list of excuses, just that. My mom stayed silent, eyes red, arms crossed so tight I thought she might choke herself. Rachel leaned against the wall but didn't say anything. I didn't respond. He kept talking, said they thought I'd never actually go through with it. That they figured I'd be mad for a while, maybe ignore some texts, but then come back like I always did. Said they didn't expect the bank to be so aggressive once I was removed. That Rachel thought her cosign would buy them time, not sink them. Then my mom spoke. She said it felt like I'd disappeared. That pulling the mortgage and shutting off the money made it seem like I'd erased myself from the family. I almost laughed. That was the first time they'd acknowledged I'd done all that without help. Rachel finally looked up, and for once, she didn't sound sharp. "You were right to be angry," she said. "We just didn't think you'd actually walk." I told them the truth, that I hadn't planned any of this, that I didn't wake up one day and decide to sever everything. I just got tired of being used and resented in the same breath. I said I didn't feel like a brother or a son anymore, just a backup plan. They all went quiet again. Then my mom asked the question I knew was coming. "Will you come back on the mortgage?" I let the silence sit. It was clear now they couldn't afford it. Rachel had overreached. The payments had jumped, and they had no options left. No fallback, no way out. They were here not because they saw the light, but because they ran out of road. I told them no. Their eyes dropped. My dad started nodding like he expected it. My mom bit her lip. But then I added something I hadn't planned on. "I'll pay the difference for the next 6 months. Nothing else. Just enough so you don't lose the house. After that, it's yours. All of it." They were shocked. Not grateful, just surprised. Like they hadn't expected even that from me anymore. Rachel didn't say thank you. She just nodded quietly. For once, no power plays. They left soon after. No hugs, no promises, just a kind of worn-out truce, the kind that doesn't heal anything but stops the bleeding. I closed the door and stared at the wall for a long time. 6 more months. That's what I'd given them. One last buffer. Not because I believed they'd change. Not because I thought they deserved it. But because, deep down, I knew the line between being kind and being used is sometimes just one boundary away. And I had finally drawn mine. They knew now that I could walk. And if I had to, I would again. But for now, we were quiet, balanced, and maybe that was enough. It's been quiet. Too quiet, honestly. 3 weeks since they stood in my apartment and accepted the terms. I've made one payment, the exact difference in their new mortgage amount, nothing more. No calls, no texts, no fake emergencies, just silence. Rachel hasn't contacted me. I saw she unfollowed me on every platform, which honestly felt more like a gift than a punishment. My mom sent one text a few days ago. "Got the payment. Thank you." I didn't respond. I thought maybe they were regrouping or stewing or plotting round 2, but nothing's come yet. Maybe the reality of consequences finally settled in. What surprised me, though, was how I felt. Relieved, a little free, definitely, but also weirdly detached. Like I'm watching my own life from a few steps back. I know they haven't changed. I don't expect them to. But for the first time in years, I'm not waiting for their next move. I'm not on edge, bracing for some request or guilt trip. It's calm. Not joyful, not healed, just calm. And for now, I'll take it.